She twirled her glass of Merlot, her voice cool and detached as she announced, "I need you to give up custody." The words landed like a casual request for a new lamp, not the seismic shift she intended. Seated across the polished oak dining table, I studied her. Those lips I'd once brushed with goodnight kisses now curved in smug certainty, as if the outcome was already sealed. "It's for his well-being," she added, her tone suggesting she was granting me a small courtesy. Her new partner, Jake, lounged nearby, his chiseled jaw framed by carefully trimmed stubble. He fancied himself a life guru, the kind who peddled empowerment seminars and devoured books with wolves or lions glaring from the covers. I held my composure, my face a mask of calm. "If that's what brings you closure," I replied softly. Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. She'd braced for a fight, shouts, maybe tears, but my quiet acquiescence threw her off balance. In that stillness, the gears of my strategy began to turn. The woman I'd vowed to love hadn't always carried this cold edge. Years ago, she danced barefoot in summer downpours, sobbed at the bittersweet endings of animated movies, and learned the names of every prehistoric creature to delight our son's obsession. But somewhere along the way, routine dulled her spark. Or perhaps I became too predictable. Then Jake strode into her yoga studio, all-toned physique and rehearsed affirmations. She wandered from our marriage, insisting it wasn't infidelity because our connection had already frayed, as if emotional drift erased her vows. I didn't lash out or challenge her. Instead, I absorbed her words, cataloged every detail, and played the role she expected. A broken man, pliable and defeated. She demanded full custody of our children, citing their need for a stable home. Jake, she explained, required space to forge a bond with them. The word bond pierced me like a shard of glass, but I agreed without hesitation, far too easily. The night after I signed the temporary custody documents, I set to work. I gathered evidence with surgical precision, recorded phone calls, preserved text exchanges, statements from the nanny, and notes from our son's counseling sessions where he described Jake's outbursts in trembling whispers while his mother stood idly by. I built a comprehensive archive, digital files backed up, physical copies organized, every entry dated and cross-indexed. This wasn't just about challenging custody. It was about constructing an airtight case. I'd learned family court didn't care for raw truth. It rewarded the side with the most persuasive story backed by solid proof and a polished presence. I made sure I'd have both. I hired a discreet investigator, not some trenchcoat-wearing cliché, but a tech-savvy specialist. He dug into Jake's past, uncovering a trail of missteps. A drunk driving charge, 2 hushed-up domestic disputes, and a restraining order filed by a former partner who changed her name to escape him. I kept these findings close, never tipping my hand to Jake or her. She was convinced she held all the cards, protected by Jake's charisma and her carefully curated image as a nurturing parent. And why wouldn't she be? I played my role too well. Days before the hearing, I sent her a bouquet of lilies attached with a note. "For all you've done, my gratitude." She took it as surrender. It was my opening salvo. The courtroom smelled of lemon polish and aged paper, a sterile arena where futures are reshaped with quiet efficiency. She arrived in a flowing white dress, a calculated symbol of innocence. Jake sat at her side, his usual swagger replaced by a rehearsed look of sincerity, his face freshly shaved. I walked in alone, unassuming in a simple gray suit, no attorney in tow. Her lips twitched into a faint smile, certain I'd fumbled. When the judge asked if I had anything to contribute before finalizing the custody terms, I stood and handed over a thick binder, its contents meticulously labeled. "Your Honor, this includes documentation regarding the safety and well-being of my children in the care of Miss Harper and her partner, Mr. Grayson." Her smile wavered, a crack in her armor. The judge's eyes narrowed as he flipped open the cover. The file began with our son's words, transcribed from therapy, detailing nights left alone while Jake's temper flared in another room. Audio clips followed. Jake's voice, thick with liquor, hurling insults, dismissing my daughter as a bother, while her mother's laughter echoed faintly. Then came the investigators' findings. Police records, including those buried under legal seals, accessed through back channels. The judge's face grew stern, his fingers pausing over each page. "I didn't know," she blurted, her voice trembling. The judge cut her off with a sharp gesture. "You'll remain silent," he said, his tone final. It was almost lyrical in its justice. Jake's facade shattered, his cheeks reddened, his protests escalating to a shout before he stormed out, leaving her alone. She sat frozen, her gaze darting between me and the judge, grappling with the collapse of her carefully built world. She'd never truly held the upper hand. Not over the children, not over the narrative, not over the outcome. The judge cleared his throat, his voice steady. "Sole custody is granted to Mr. Harper. Effective immediately. Supervised visitation for the mother, pending further review." I didn't revel or smirk, just offered a slight nod as I passed her, whispering, "If that's what brings you closure." That evening, I took the children for Sundays, promising them the storm had passed, that our home was theirs again. My son, his voice small, asked if Jake would come back. "No," I assured him. "People like him don't get to stay when their truths are laid bare." She flooded my phone with messages, voicemails, accusations that I'd rigged the system. I didn't silence her. I let her wrestle with the emptiness she'd sown, each unanswered call a reminder of her choices. She claimed I'd twisted the facts, but I'd only unearthed what she'd hidden, presenting it with unrelenting clarity. My pursuit wasn't fueled by spite or malice, but by an unshakable commitment to the two souls she'd treated as pawns. I gave her the illusion of victory, then reclaimed what she'd cast aside. Piece by irrefutable piece.